This one. This one.
Oh, you don't even get to it.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Trustee Polly.
Here.
Trustee Lappin.
Here.
Clerk Flavich. Here. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Here.
Trustee Kroll,
Here.
Trustee Reiner.
Here.
Supervisor Skibby. Excused absence. Adoption of the agenda. We have one item to add to the agenda, number 11, International Association of Firefighters, Local 1859 Tentative Agreement.
I'll make a motion. We adopt the agenda with the amendment.
Do I have support?
I'll support it.
Voice vote? All in
Aye.
favor, say
Aye.
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 Hey.
Hey, it's not UP.
I'm little Canadian today. Payment of bills. Laura sent them all out. Oh, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Nobody's online. Payment of bills.
Payment of bills were emailed out to everyone for review.
Make a motion that the bills be paid as presented.
Also.
Is that Russ? Okay. Roll call. Clerk Flavich. Yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Minutes of December 14th, 2021. It was a regular meeting.
I make a motion. Accept the minutes.
Do we have support?
second it.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Correspondence. We have a motion to receive and file the correspondence.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
I had one question on the correspondence. I think it was from the planning commission. Said there was a letter from Tom Hilberg to the Board of Trustees, but that wasn't in the correspondence.
I never received it.
Is that related to the USDA project? Where part of
I don't know what it was related to.
Yeah, I could read it short.
It's from Tom to us.
One of the requirements was the planning commission determined that the rural development water meter proposed project is consistent with the township's overall master plan. So the last planning commission meeting, they addressed that and said, we sign off on it. Here's our letter confirming that, because the USDA rep, they need everything step by step by step. So that was one of the steps.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I
That's
just
all.
happened to be looking at that when you said that, like, oh, I know what you're talking.
Thank you.
Sure.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Old business, adoption of ordinance number 148.
Okay, last meeting, we introduced 148, the zoning ordinance amendment. And I published notice after that and told the public that today would be the time to consider a motion to adopt ordinance 148, which will amend the zoning ordinance, and then I'll publish a notice of adoption after that. So I will look for, request a motion for adoption of proposed ordinance 148.
I will make that motion. Support.
Any discussion? Roll call. Trustee Reiner.
Oh, yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Flavich. Yes.
Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Thank you.
Brownfield Redevelopment Authority quotes for service.
So I was hopeful that, that the author would be here. I have some questions, and so I don't know how we can answer those questions unless somebody here has it. I did look at the proposal, and on page 3 of 13, I think it was, or at least page 3 of his proposal confused me on something. If you go down about to the middle of the page, where it starts to talk about the subject property, and just below that, it says the Charter Township of Alpena is not a qualified local government core community, and therefore site preparation and infrastructures are not brownfield eligible activities for project in the township. And I wanted to know what that meant. I wanted to know if that means the township bears some expense of site preparation, because there may be a fair amount of pollution on that piece of property. And I think there was also a section in here which talked about the contractor would have no liability to essentially pollution. So I didn't know what that meant. And so, plus there was another area that I was concerned about as well. And so I think without that person on the line, it's tough to answer that question. So I don't know what the sense of urgency on this is. And if there is a sense of urgency, or if there isn't, I just assume table this section,
So you're making a motion to table it, Steve?
unless somebody can answer my questions.
I can't answer.
I had a question on it too, but it was further down. It had to do with just the estimated cost because they didn't jive.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out why they didn't, because what he put in the project description cost on the 4, 5, 6 page didn't jive with the estimates that were on pages 4, and 5. So, yeah, we need to try to have those things clarified.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to have him here because he also limits his liability to only that which is the amount of insurance he carries. And so since I don't know how much insurance he carries, I think that's kind of an important
I
question
do
to
have a
ask.
certificate.
Yeah, I think that was in our
Liability
earlier
insurance
agreement with
from
him.
him,
Yeah. he just-
But I don't remember.
All
exactly
right,
what he
well,
said.
I make a motion that we table this section of the agenda. I don't have mine.
So we're going to table the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority quotes for service.
Yes,
Okay, so Steve made the motion. Do we have support?
I support that.
We'll do a voice vote. All in favor of tabling?
I,
Aye.
Those opposed? Last thing in new business is the Policy and Procedures Committee recommendation, guidelines for establishing advisory committees.
After the last meeting, Policy and Procedures Committee met, and this is the recommendation that we are bringing to the board. So I'll make a motion that we approve the guidelines for establishing advisory committees.
And the only comment I'll make on that, if I might, as a member of that committee, is that I don't think that committees that are advisory only are required to follow open meetings and FOIA either, for that matter. I'm not sure about FOIA. They're probably subject to FOIA. But Open Meetings Act, and that's publishing notice and all of that. But we put that in there. I was ambivalent with either way, but we put that in there, but I'm not sure they're required to follow that because they're not making any decisions. We make them here. So just for clarification.
Laura made a motion. Do we have support?
Well, I supported from the committee. I don't know if I can, when both of us are in the committee.
I'll support it.
Russ can support it.
Okay.
Is there any discussion?
Well, yeah, I guess, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Betsy.
I guess that's a good question on these, on the open meetings and freedom of information. So if we have, like, for example, our fire committee meeting, that should be a posted thing in advance. So that's what we're saying?
I believe that section, all committees must comply with what Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act came from information normed up from MAC that had attorney opinions in there.
Basically, what that was for, I was originally involved with this, is that follow some kind of procedure. And the Opens Meeting Act is for things that you do. We aren't doing any of those things. We don't have to keep minutes in a committee meeting. That's all spelled out. I handed out a whole packet of stuff. You don't have to do any of those things. If you choose to do them, then you got to keep track of them in case somebody wants to FOIA it. So if you don't keep track of it, you don't have to take notes. You don't have to do any of this stuff. It's strictly an advisory committee. I do have one question here, though. No more than 3 board members. Well, Skibby is at the bottom, or the supervisor is also a board member on all committees. So,
Ex officio.
yes.
And he
So
would be one of the 3.
do we need to spell that out? It says it on the bottom here, but if we have 4, then we got a quorum, then or
We can't have,
can't do it. Somebody's got to just leave it be and let it move along.
well, it's 3 to 5 members with no more than 3 board members. And then below, the supervisor is a member. That's stated there, so.
Well, then-
We could have a department head and we could have,
But
you know.
then our CIP committee is me, trustee Reiner, and trustee Polly, and if Nathan is on that committee, now we have 4.
So I think that was designed so he could step in if somebody was absent, right?
Yeah, when we've had committee meetings that I've been involved with, if we always made sure the 4th
Right.
never attended, only if somebody was absent.
But with that said, is that part of a law, the MCL 42.10 that?
Yeah, that's from the
Super-
charter, I'm sorry, that's from the Charter Township Act that just states that supervisors are members of committees automatically by virtue of their position.
Are they voting members, Tim, or my recollection of ex officio is something other than an official member.
Yeah, it doesn't give us much guidance. It tells us he's a member, but doesn't mean he has to attend. He doesn't attend.
But it doesn't say he's an ex officio member either.
But no matter what, it's not a voting body.
Right.
It's
It's an advisory body.
yeah, I mean, they may come to a consensus and then advise
Right.
up here.
When committees were first set up a couple of elections ago, it was, okay, this is Russ said, you're not deliberating, you're not making decisions for the board, so technically Open Meetings Act doesn't apply. And what the board said then was, well, let's keep them open to the public, though. There won't be any, just voluntarily, which is permissible. But I said, okay, then when you've got your personnel committee, member of the public, and if that's the policy you want to follow, and you can't say, no, don't come in here, we're having a committee meeting of 3 board members.
Well, and we had some, they were, what did you call that?
I was thinking
But at
about,
your office.
well, I was thinking about the ad hoc committee that we put together, not only for the fire department, but for that whole zoning.
Right.
uh,
Oh, you guys had a lot of meetings and did a lot of
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
How come we get that number?
And I think there was only 1 or 2 board members on that committee, and the rest
There
were
was only
citizens.
There was me and I think Nathan would step in from time to time, but he ultimately didn't. And so it was really just me.
Yeah,
And so, but I wonder about, like, I don't have a problem with it, but posting all of that stuff when we have like fire committee meetings or some other sort of random hour kind of thing. So where we don't really have a set period of time that we're going to meet, we might accelerate the meetings in the beginning and then elongate them later on. So I just don't know if if it becomes, but not, if it doesn't bug you guys, it doesn't bug me.
well, it bugs me in this, if Norm is right, if I understood you correctly, that we have to then, if we do say they're open to the public, then
We post it.
we post it, we also must take minutes. And if we must take minutes, then we're adding a lot of things that we might get called on later.
Committee meetings don't have to take minutes. They don't have to post
You-
it. That's spelled out, I believe in, I don't know if this number is correct.
I think the question is, if we're saying we're gonna comply with the Open Meetings Act.
Then do we have to do those
post
things?
it And take minutes.
Maybe the better thing, if you wish to keep things open, just if somebody wants to observe that,
Yeah,
it's
they can
open
do
to public observation or something like that, as opposed to open meetings.
Yeah,
So
any-
remove the word Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, and freedom of information, that just goes without saying, if
Yeah.
it's something that's,
Yeah.
it's
If
FOIA-able,
it's a document.
it's gonna be FOIA-able, yeah.
Well, and that's, I guess that's where I'm getting at, is that I don't have a problem with somebody coming in here and sitting in on a meeting or something like that, but it's just the posting of the minutes and all that stuff, because we just everybody's got to be on board, right? We have to convey that information to whomever posts that.
Yeah, and also if you guys, you have bad weather or something, so let's move the meeting time 2 hours later, and all of a sudden you've got a
Mhm,
improperly posted meeting.
mhm.
So,
How can we modify that line? Or can we just take out Open Meetings Act
So could we just say all committees must comply
with the
with the
freedom?
Freedom of Information Act?
And that's fine, because that just gives everybody a heads up that FOIA applies, so keep that in mind.
So any emails, basically, if you don't keep minutes, any emails you send to each other are FOIAble.
Oh, yeah,
Text, email.
text,
Yeah,
phone,
text.
everything.
But can they do text? Because we don't keep a record of text.
Phone company does,
Yeah, phone call. I mean, there's,
and so does Al Gore, I think.
It would be quite costly for us to get all those.
yeah, and I
Yes, it
haven't
is.
had to.
They're also on
enter
Henry's
that, but
computers.
it's, you know, I've seen a bit of that before, so just, we all need to be aware of that. Our checks, and if it's even on your private phone or your private email, if it's township business,
Yep. That's why it's best to do everything from your township email.
yeah, easier to keep
Yes.
track if
Yes.
something like that does pop
Uh,
up.
Then it's gonna be amendment to the motion.
So.
I'll make that, I'll make
Laura
that
made the
up
motion
Oh,
I'm
okay.
open to that amendment.
as am I.
and was supported.
I think I instigated it.
This will go on policy and procedures manual.
Yes.
Can we have a roll call? Haley?
Trustee Lappin,
Yes,
clerk Flavich.
Yes.
Treasurer Ellery Summers. Yes. Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Foley.
Yes.
Okay, on to new business. Public comment, USDA rural water meter project. Tim, I think you know.
Yeah, I
most
can,
about that.
I can talk about this. The notice, as I mentioned, talking to Russ earlier, that this is really step by step driven by the representative from USDA Rural Development Department. And so the notice that was published for today reads as follows. I helped get this published. Charter Township of Alpena, notice of intent to file application. The Charter Township of Alpena intends to file an application for federal assistance with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Rural Utility Services. The project includes the replacement of the majority of the customers' water meters within the Alpena Township Water Service District. A public meeting for comments will be held at the Alpena Township offices, giving the address today at 6 p.m. to discuss the proposed project and provide the opportunity for public comment. Additional information may be obtained by contacting the township offices. So I'm assuming you two will have a lot of public comment right now on. Kevin? It's not like a special assessment district where we're looking to see if X% of the public objects or anything like that. It's just an opportunity for us to notify the public that this is in the works. And so we'll need the minutes from today, and I've got to get that to the representative to show that we publish this. When you get an affidavit of publication, I'll take
Okay,
it from you. And that we provided the public with an opportunity today to ask questions. Let us know anything that they want us to know, and then you can always do that afterward too.
Did we
Basically,
create this document? I'm sorry.
So
We created these documents?
The rural development person did, said this was the form we want you to use, and then it was modified for Alpena Township.
I have a couple questions, but go ahead, Norman.
And I think that basically what this is for is that we will be able to get new up-to-date water meters at a, not necessarily a extremely reasonable price, but we'll get the very good financing through the rural development. Is that correct?
Yes, I've been involved in several rural development projects, most recently for a sewer extension project with Sapple Township. Took about a year. There's an engineer that really runs the show. In this case, it's Larry Fox from CA2E. In that case, it was another engineer. And every so often, they need the township attorney to help with a form or some step of the way. So I'm never fully engulfed in the thing. Really, it's the engineer working with the USDA representative who's kind of the conductor of the whole thing and says, here's what we need next, here's what we need next. And it's the civil engineer who figures out who will do the work. And one thing I get involved with is there's a title opinion that they'll need me to work on. So that'll be my biggest involvement. But so I'm not, I was wishing Nathan would be here because he have more details than I have as far as exactly what's going to happen with this project. I've had a few preliminary things I've had to do, but yep.
I'm a nitpicker, I guess, when it comes to typos, but then there's also a question on this. So 1.0 executive summary on this, I think it's page 3.
Township plans to
So the
replace-
township plans to replace all, nearly all. And I don't know if that means all or nearly
I
all,
think they meant or nearly all.
or should the all be deleted, one or the other? And it sounds like we're looking at all of them. And then the next paragraph down, it says no excavation work or interior plumbing work. Well, that didn't sound right to me because I know that my meter is plumbed into my house and it's down in my basement. So I mean, is that considered plumbing work if they disconnect it, turn it off and disconnect it and disconnect it? Is that plumbing work?
I think that's.
I think a plumber would think it was.
That's part of our ordinance as it stands, like,
Allows us.
yeah, where we don't go in and do plumbing work inside the home on behalf of the water customer.
So it's not considered plumbing work to change out a meter.
So I think it's, I think what that means is we're not doing what a plumber would do.
That's utility work when we change out a meter.
So it's not plumbing.
It's not plumbing.
So if I remember right, we had an issue in the past, I think. with that.
And I didn't know where to turn the water off in my house. It was a problem.
Does this document, Tim, have to be signed and
No.
submitted?
No, we're just gonna need our minutes to reflect the fact that notice was published. And I'll help Michelle with that, and then that we open this up for public comment, and then we didn't receive any public.
There's nobody on the line.
The additional information that you handed out, Michelle.
The last 3 pages.
Yeah, so it says the estimated cost of the project is 1.2 million. And on page 12 of 13, it says that it's, very close to that number. But on page, what I'm confused about. Oh, wait. So all right, never, okay. Appendix G is the revenue stream for water, right? Or is it? The 3 million, I was a little confused on that one. I'd gotten it obviously at the meeting, so don't think of me as too confused, but the existing budget must be for the revenue stream of the township as it relates to water. Does that sound about right, that it's about $3 million of revenue?
Laura?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Anybody have a budget on
Yeah.
them? Why don't we go to the water and see what the revenue stream is?
Total revenue is 3.9 million.
There you
All
go.
right, so
We've
that,
collected 2 million so far this year.
all right, so that must be Appendix G is the annual operating and management of the water, drinking water. But it must be, is that just water, 3 million, or is that sewer as well?
It's water and sewer, but that also includes the water special assessment on tax bills for the water. Water sales is estimated at 1.5 million. Sewer sales is at 1.25 million. So it's about 3 million.
All right. Let me see if that's note from federal NFIP minimum requirements for Appendix G. All right. For the- for
Water
the
sales is
development of a
1.5
floodplain.
budgeted.
All right, it just must be the revenue. So, all right, never mind. That makes a little bit more sense. So we just need to make a motion to get the ball rolling. Is that what I'm understanding?
What do we need to do then?
Yeah, let's see how to document that. We'll have the minutes show that we had this as an item. We opened it for public comment. There wasn't any public comment. We really don't need a motion. Just need the minutes to reflect that we public comment.
All right, and then we just move forward on it. Then. All right. Did we ask for public?
That's what I
comment?
was, yeah.
We did ask for a public comment. There's absolutely nobody on Zoom. We'll go to the next item, which is Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Executive Director Appointment. Nathan would.
Right, I think since we tabled
Yeah, I-
under old business B, this item should also be tabled.
I second that motion.
Have a voice vote, all in favor of tabling the Brownfield Redevelopment Executive Director appointment?
All right.
Aye.
All. All opposed? Motion carried. Next is the building official contract. Our building official is here. His contract would start January 1st. Don Gilmet's contract expires December 31st. Currently, we're paying Don $1,000 a month for his services. And paying Mr. Pauly $3,000. The new contract would pay Mr. Pauly $4,000 a month for building official services. And if he needed Don Gilmet's assistance, Mr. Pauly would pay for that.
This is for a year.
I think there's no expiration. The contract may be terminated with 90 days.
Okay, so it just begins on
Sorry,
January
yeah.
1st. I have one question for Kevin. So when you began kind of taking over or helping out with the zoning, and I believe that when we did this before, the supervisor was still the zoning administrator and you had a different title.
Yeah, I was the building inspector.
Okay, so do you think like you're ready to just take on being the zoning administrator?
For zoning, for the building official.
That's what this contract is.
And it's also, so I'm also working my way into zoning and stuff.
That's what that was my question.
No, we're still working that part out.
Okay,
This is just for the zone, building. department.
right.
Because it-
I just didn't know how, if you were kind of there where you
Oh.
think, like, you still needed the supervisor for a while yet to kind of work together on stuff.
There's a lot of things on. you know, the
Left to-
regulates are
It is, it's,
formed and This neighborhood does this and it's like that.
Okay. I was just curious about that, but thank you. I'll
I
make.
think-
oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I was gonna make the motion to approve
ahead.
the contract as written and as submitted.
Supported by Trustee Polly. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes,
Clerk Flavich.
Yes. Okay, number 4 is federal poverty guidelines used in the determination of poverty exemptions for 2022. Our building assessors not here, or I mean, our assessor's not here and Nathan's not here to discuss this.
Does this have to be approved before the end of the year or?
I don't know.
Tim, do you know anything about this? I was wondering, this I think is a fairly pro forma thing we do every year, is it?
Yeah, it's something, as I go through it annually, it's just okay. Sometimes Chris is here to chime in on it, but it was always real pro forma.
I think there is a timeline on it, but I don't know what it is. My thought is these poverty guidelines are filed, I think, by the federal government, are they
that's
not?
what it sounds like.
And
Yeah, there weren't any variables before. It was always Chris saying, this is what I need, period.
Well, it came from the Michigan State Tax Commission.
it says that the SEV for poverty does not exceed or should not exceed 120,000. This is a handwritten note on this. And asset level back down to 5,000 to 10,000 needs to be changed on adopted guidelines. I don't know what that means.
I think we need Chris here to.
Yeah,
So do we want to table
I
this?
think we tabled this until the Tuesday meeting in January.
Question as to what will table and have any effect on being, when it becomes active or
That's my
that be
concern.
done by the end of the year. Or
I don't know that.
Well, it says the purpose of the bulletin is to provide information, statutory charges, procure changes and reminders for the 2022 assessment
Yeah.
year.
I would think we need to get this approved.
What it looks like, the only real notes on here, and I presume that writing is from Chris.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. He's only emailed it to me.
Is this Skibby's
I think
handwriting?
it's Skibby's.
But is this for our fiscal year, calendar year?
I think this would be for the calendar year. 'Cause I think it has to do with annual tax assessment.
MC.
At the top, it says procedural changes for 2022. So I guess it's some.
On page 4 at the bottom, local units are required to ensure that all requirements are met beginning in the 2022 tax year. This includes having a published policy for when the assessor's office is accessible to taxpayers, information for taxpayers on how a request inspection and for production of records in the assessor's office online.
We did a policy regarding the assessor's office. That was something that popped up last year, so I think that's in place. Yeah, that was something I had to deal with other communities too. And so that's already set.
Looks like our assessments have gone up 30 million.
Man, we'll have another meeting in,
January 8th.
and then we can try and put it on.
Well, less. Here this week.
Pardon me?
Is our assessor off all
He
week?
is off
Mhm.
all week.
That's
I guess
why,
we don't have to do it before the first of the year then.
Well, he won't be back till the 3rd.
that's why a memo with, along with documentation would be very helpful. If he would have just done a little memo this is what this is, this is what the recommendation is.
Yeah, I feel
It's very
it, I
helpful.
feel it lost.
So do you want to have a motion to table it?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to table, table item
Four.
4 under new business to the closest next meeting.
We could probably also, if necessary, at the next meeting, say whatever you adopt is retroactive to January 1st.
We can try it.
Should we have support?
I'll
Christie?
second that.
Any more discussion?
Not on that.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, retirement plan document mandatory IRS reinstatement cycle. Every 6 years, the IRS requires that we restate our retirement plan. It's exactly as it was 6 years ago. We just need to approve it, and then Nathan and I can sign it and get it back to them. It's an IRS requirement.
You're making that as a motion?
I will make that as a motion.
Support.
Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call, please.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Flavich.
Yes.
Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Quinn.
Yes,
Budget adjustments, probably gonna be something at every meeting. If anybody has any questions, the Brownfield redevelopment authority is new.
And the water postage went up too a little bit because we've been sending out
Yes, do.
past due notices.
What is plan review line item? So 101, 701, 963?
For the planning commission,
Oh,
Rick Dual.
Rick Dual, I can probably explain more of what Rick Dual does.
Yes, Rick takes every case and he goes over it with his fine tooth comb of all the way our codes are set up, make sure that everything is in place, things that are not in place, or things that need to be addressed by the planning commission board. He makes notes of them and makes that into a file that we can go through item by item at each meeting for each case. been a
so
big
it's
help.
just an extra, he had more to do this year or something, or
He's been
compensating?
doing this for about 2 years now.
I see we're increasing the amount for that.
It seems
By
like we've
500.
had more cases this year.
I don't know if he's increased the amount of doing it, other than I think we have some more cases.
That's what I meant.
The
That's what I was
cost is
asking.
the same per case. We've just had more cases this year. Do we have a motion to approve the budget adjustments?
I'll make that motion.
Or
I'll support.
any more discussion?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
So on the public safety line items, there's a $12,000 being moved to salary payable full-time officers. What, can I just know why? What's going on there?
We did not budget enough money to get us through the year.
I guess I should really look at the budget bottom line and see where we're at, but, okay, so
All the
that money
budget
that we're moving out of
adjustments.
those line items are in the same department.
They're all in the same department.
Yeah. But I see we're spending money on PIP, or PPE, I guess it is, PPE, excuse me. And yeah, we're moving money out of those lines. Are we gonna be okay?
We can purchase PPE using the millage equipment. The fire equipment millage money.
We can for PPE? Well, that isn't budgeted in here.
How did we state our I'm sorry, Tim, how did we state our millage for that? Do you remember if that was said equipment or to say?
The second millage was
The one we didn't need.
definitely had the word equipment in it, equipment and apparatus, equipment. It was equipment related. Cash was on the key for that, yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, the first was operations, the one that we renew from time to time. The other one was the first time for fire equipment. It may be apparatus, but that would be included in the equipment.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Flavich. Yeah. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
No.
Motion carried. Chief, you're up. Fire department, employee resignation.
Good evening, everybody. Mark Hanson, Fire Chief. Hope everybody had a good Christmas. As you see in under new business here, we do have a resignation from our staff. Matt Benedict has chosen a different career path. Unfortunate that we're going to lose him as a full timer. However, he has agreed to stay on as a paid on call for us, which I find is a positive. Even though we'll be losing him on a regular basis, we'll be able to still tap into his resources to help us out and continue on with that. And with that being said, I do believe it takes a motion of the board to accept his resignation. And it's hard to hold the young guy back. Some of the things that we need to look at down the road for retention purposes. But my recommendation is that we accept his resignation.
How can we not
Right.
make the motion?
Support.
any discussion?
I would just like to comment on his resignation letter, where it says 144 hours of PTO, and he has that in his bank. Per the current contract, he is to be paid out 50% of those hours, and it's really 75%. So
I believe you're correct.
Well,
That'll be a
just so
blessing
that's
to
clear.
you.
Yeah,
Right.
Haley and I looked that up. this
Yeah.
today.
So that should be 75%.
Yes. Any further discussion? Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Flavich.
Yeah.
Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
In addition to that, I'd just put it on record that I would like to thank him for his time here at the township, and we've worked him pretty hard since he's been here. So those guys they haven't had too many breaks. So with that being said, next on the agenda is item number 8, fire department new hire. We kind of enacted a phone call immediately on the note of his resignation. That was on a Friday. I pulled a couple of the personnel committee members immediately and said, what are we going to do? We went to, we had lengthy discussion, and we determined that, we went through this interview process. We had a good candidate. There was no sense in going back through the interview process and costing the township more money for advertising and our time and coming into different meetings. We have a qualified candidate, Blaine Gaunt. He's currently EMT. He works for Iosco County EMS, and he's on the Richland Logan Fire Department. He's had different experiences in different places, Una Vista, Whittemore, and Richland Logan currently. So he's picked up some skills there. He has the qualifications that we require. His wife is looking at, she interviewed today at the hospital. They've already got a place on 11th and Sobel. So they're planning ahead, but it's going to be my recommendation that we move forward with putting Mr. Blaine Gaunt in place of Matt Benedict.
Appropriate tests have been physicals, et cetera.
We have not
Based-
done that, but
Based on his physicals,
Okay.
drug test, and whatever else Michelle tells him he has to do.
I'll make a motion that we offer employment to Blaine Gaunt contingent upon passing a physical background check, drug screen, and agility test.
This is full-time employment, correct?
That's correct.
and I'll support that. I think everybody should have got this resume application. I emailed them out this morning.
I didn't get it because I can't open it. so try and get that resolved.
Yeah, just call 1010 and they can fix it.
You want to see it, or did you get it?
Did we check backgrounds? Do we call references, et cetera?
Well, that would be part of the condition of
We have
employment,
called references. We called references
Right.
during our first.
but
round.
his background check would be performed by Supervisor Skibby, I believe.
Yes.
So pending,
It's all
so
contingent
maybe
on-
include that in your motion, pending his official background check.
I had, yep,
Yeah,
that's what I,
she did say.
that's what I said.
background check.
Mhm.
Oh, didn't hear that.
Thanks for picking up on that detail, Mr. Lappin.
Yeah, I think it's been moved and seconded.
Mhm.
It's been moved by Treasurer Laura Ellis Summers and supported by myself.
A discussion.
Yes.
Is this gentleman, Mr. Blaine, I believe?
But Mr. Gaunt,
Gaunt.
yep,
Gaunt. Is he aware of the total situation of the fire department?
he is. We were very transparent with him during interviews, like we were with all candidates that interviewed. Clerk Palovich really stated that, what direction we are and what financial woes we have and what the salary was going to be. And at this point in time, I haven't had any opposition. Obviously, everybody would like to make more, right? But the bottom line is that it fits his situation. They're making a family move. They have family in the area. So they're planning on making this their home. And I'm willing to get him here and get working with him.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Clerk Flavich,
Yes.
Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner,
No.
Trustee Polly,
No.
Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
Next item is fire department turnout gear.
Okay, yep. Item number 9. In your packet, you will have 3 different companies, R&R, Phoenix, and 5 Alarm Fire. I put together some quotes for bunker gear. We have, and this does not include a helmet, gloves, and a Nomex hood. However, those are minuscule compared to the actual gear itself. Bottom line is that we had, the lowest bid I received was from R&R Fire of $2,314, which is a comparable gear to what we currently have. The exception of that bid is that there's no loaner gear that can be used by their company. They don't offer that service until we get our actual gear. And the timelines are anywhere from 60 days to 6 months to get gear made. Okay. So if you'll go to the next Phoenix Fire, they come in at the lowest and the second lowest, I shall say. But their company does offer us loaner gear to equip any of our firefighters that are in need of that until the gear comes in. So basically, if it takes them 6 months to get us gear, we have 6 months more advanced that it's not coming off the dates and times on our gear. We're using theirs for no cost if we purchase the gear from them. So with Phoenix, that gear is included. It's considered loaner gear. It'll be in-date gear, washed, professionally cleaned before it gets distributed to us. And they're a certified gear inspector, cleaner and manufacturer, so they will make sure everything's up to snuff before we get it, so it'll meet NFPA requirements. 5-alarm coming in your third highest bid and of 28.25. And they have a rental charge that goes towards each piece. That's why they're more. So so as far as in my opinion, the direction I think we ought to head here, my recommendation would be Phoenix Safety Outfitters for $2,447.36 per set of gear. We're looking at, we have 2 new hires. We have a paid on call, which is new, 2 paid on calls. We have 4 sets of gear, and then all of our people will be in approved gear at this
So
point.
we need 4 sets of gear.
4 sets of gear.
For a total of, what's on that?
I didn't total it,
9,500.
but I can do it right now.
While you're tapping away on your abacus, can you tell me with Phoenix, I don't see where it says that they're gonna provide us with loaner gears.
Yeah, I don't see it either, but that is a verbal that I was told that that's just the way they're, because there's such a lead time right now on gear. They'll just provide us with loaner gear. Now I can request that to be in.
I was gonna say, could we
I
get
would-
that in writing?
yeah.
Well, let's
before
make the,
we-
I would suggest we make the motion subject to. But that's up to you guys. My problem.
Yeah, make a motion
You
to
make the motion.
Subject to a written
written,
understanding.
I'll be on the phone with the representative right after the meeting, just to make that clarification.
Yeah.
I'll get that to Clerk Palovich and she can send that out to the board
Well,
members.
does this come up? Are we, do we have a motion on the table yet?
There's a motion.
We
but
have
no
not had
support.
support yet. Did someone support it? I'll support it.
What line item would this come out of?
I have it written down. This would come out of equipment millage purchases, which is 205-336-976-000.
976. I don't
This
even
would be for
see
a
a
total of
976.
That's correct.
So that would be $9,789.44.
What is that again?
$9,789.44. Let me double check my math.
That's what I come up with too.
What date is that printed off on, Russ? Because we had our. chart of
Oh,
account-
11, this is 11/30/2021, and I see 971 to 980.
Yeah, you probably have one right that was done before our conversion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes, Nora.
you just have the old number on there.
Is this coming out of the millage money?
Yes, from the sale of the ambulance.
The most recent full budget. I've
We
got.
currently have
Equipment
130,000 in there,
millage
but
right now.
105 is dedicated to the rescue
This
vehicles.
number. That's the old
That's
GL.
that's the money coming in, yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
Oh,
and there is a little bit of money left in PPE line item as well. I can grab that for you if you want me to.
Yeah, you got about 3,000 left. It looks like we took you down to 3,000 in personal protective equipment.
Right. Some of that's probably going to be taken from there to make
And that's the
payroll.
question, if that's why I voted no on the past motion, because if we're taking money out of what comes in on that equipment millage and we're transferring it to salaries, I think we just
Yeah, you
did
can't,
something.
you can't do that.
no, we didn't
Well,
do that.
But we took it
You
out.
told
of-
me that was where it came from. That's why I voted no.
No, I said that when we were paying this, we'd get it out of the equipment millage. That money that was put under that GL came from the general fund and the general operating.
And we didn't want to touch that line item in the event that we need to use that to balance.
130,000 available in the equipment millage purchases line from selling the ambulance.
You're back to the budget adjustments on this page.
Yeah, that's what I was. talking
So
about.
the $12,000 that was put into full-time officers came from full-time personal protection equipment. That is not the millage money.
And that, well, when I asked the question, that's what somebody said it
That's
was.
not
Oh,
millage
then I
money.
didn't understand.
And
your
paid on
question.
call personal protect, that's not millage money either.
Okay,
No, that is not.
No.
I wish I'd have caught that because I would have tried to clarify that for you,
Yeah.
trustee Reiner.
No, because that can only be used for equipment.
Right.
Right. Yes, no, that's not paying salaries. But I have a couple questions about this. So with these, and we want 4 sets. Just because I have no idea, how much does a helmet cost? How much does a hood cost? And how much do gloves cost?
So for a helmet, you can be looking at anywhere from 250 to 330 in that neighborhood.
Okay,
A
let's go
hood.
high, 330.
Yeah, 40 to 50 bucks, and a pair of gloves, 40 to 50 bucks.
So 50, so we're looking at,
And I did not quote those items as of yet. So,
And do we need 4 sets of those too?
right, well, we do have some of these folks coming on that said, don't worry about it, I got my own. So I want to find out before I just go buy, as long as their personal items or meet specifications and they would rather wear their personal gloves than us buying some. Yippee, that's what I'm going to let them do.
but we're looking at like another $1,500.
Possibly, yep,
Right.
possibly.
So that's
doesn't the
included
helmet
into
have to
this.
be I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying, we're not just talking about $9,789.44. We're adding on another 1,500 into equipping someone.
Right.
But that'll come back as another. quote.
Right.
That
Right.
definitely will.
But that's about what it would cost for 4 people.
Right.
Right now, I'm trying to see when they actually get here, what they want to use and if I can approve them to use it. Until the time being that maybe we free up a little bit more money down the road that we can actually replace that. But if their personal gloves that they have meet NFPA specs and they would rather wear their personal gloves, I'm okay with
Well,
it.
it saves us money.
Saves us money, yes.
What happens?
So the only
to-
question I have on the helmets, did I hear you say that some people may wish to come with their own helmets?
Well, I know there are a couple that wish to come with them, but their color scheme doesn't
Well, that's-
match our.
That's what I was gonna ask.
So, but I have to inspect that and I have to look at their stuff. They didn't bring it with them the times that they've been here, but I need to inspect what they have and what they'd like to use. Now, a couple of them said that they have their own boots. So, I mean, that could be an issue. We have a stock of some boots. I don't know until I put their foot into them and I know what they actually need to wear, if it'll fit them. That's to be determined. So I really couldn't prematurely come to you folks with that, until, and it's kind of a small ticket item and they're going to start staggered. So it's not like I'm going to have to purchase it all at once. I don't think. So,
How much is a pair of boots?
it all depends what's going to fit
I mean,
them.
I'm just saying, just
let-
for
let's
one,
say-
just to get an idea of how
Let's
much
say
it costs.
250 to 300
Okay,
in that ballpark. Now, when the township purchased the last round of boots, they bought $500 and some boots, but the firefighters paid for half. So they wanted a different style of boot and it was agreed upon at that time with the board that they bought these Globe boots for $550. Well, so I don't like that plan because when the person goes to leave, well, what am I going to do with my $250 share of my boots? Because I want their boots. So
That's
we're
a
not-
very good question.
And that was the question I wanted to ask at the appropriate time. So Matt Benedict's leaving. Is he taking equipment? Is he leaving equipment?
Well, he's leaving. He has 2 sets of gear. So he's leaving the standard issued gear that all the full timers have right now. He's leaving that. Now, whether we'll be able to fit that into anybody, that's a different story. But as far as his, he'll have 1 set. He'll be like a paid on call, like anybody else, a paid on call. They have 1 set of gear. A lot of the full timers back in the day all had 2 sets. We don't have that luxury right now. Because if you go out on a structure fire and you get it all wet, NFPA standard says you're supposed to clean that gear before you can wear it again because of the carcinogens and different things in that gear. We don't have a backup set of gear. So the guys try to wait until they know it's going to be their day off and they throw them in the washer and dryer and try to get them ready. But we can't meet that standard right now. So that's one little obstacle we do have.
So that takes a man out of service.
It does. And it's not just our problem. We called for mutual aid on a structure fire on Lake Winyah Road and the air base guys showed up. They physically took all their gear and put them in garbage bags like that And they told me, you can't call us again because we don't have a spare set of gear. They won't let us take our crash rescue gear off the base. They're shiny suits that won't go off the base. So they're out of service. They would have to totally rely on somebody else to come in and fill those positions. So,
Yeah.
but it's the carcinogens and all the different standards we got to try to meet up with. And at this point in time, we're not fiscally responsible enough to be able to provide 2 sets of gear. We're lucky we're having one.
These Tide Pods will wash all that stuff away.
And they do. As soon as they get them dirty, they're able to use them in the wash machines.
That was a discussion that I had actually had, wondering just how, oh, sorry. You can throw them in like regular to the washing machine.
Right.
That's what we do, but don't they have special detergent they're supposed to use?
Well, supposed to use. We currently use Tide. There's a carcinogen extractor. Of course, anytime you talk something specialty, pull out more out of your wallet. And that's not a place where we're at right now. If the Tide's going to make them clean and make them feel good about it, I'm good with that right now. We'll try to get there someday. Right now, we're just trying to stay afloat.
How long does a set of gear last?
That is a real loaded question. It depends what kind of situation they might get exposed to. Let's say
I
they,
thought they had expiration dates on them or
well,
whatever.
yeah, there's 10 years on them, but you also have wear and tear to consider, damage that they might hook a nail and rip their suit and,
I just meant on average.
On
'cause
average,
I am
10
supposed to
years.
Last 10, okay.
Yep.
That was my question.
So,
Yeah.
so one of the benefits of actually getting loaner gear from a company before we buy it, we're going to get 6 months on their dime, if you will. Because our gear will come freshly dated, right? As soon as it's manufactured, it'll come with a fresh date. So we'll have a little stagger. So there'll be a 6-month difference in some of this gear, which will help a little bit.
But we're paying for anything.
Tim, 100%, we can absolutely buy turnout gear with the millage money.
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
And then I'll point out that we do, once we receive our rescue rigs that we purchased, we'll be doing the sale of another ambulance. So that'll go into that fund as well. I'm not trying to get the cart before the horse, but that's just a projection that you folks can, look at, that we're most likely, we have one commitment already from a company that wants it as soon as it's available, but that doesn't mean it's the bird in hand yet. Anything can happen with the economy or the market between now and then, but I fully anticipate that we're going to keep our number up there very high on the second ambulance.
Do our guys, our folks, when they have, when our folks have to go in on a first responder medical call, do they have to put on PPE?
Right. They're wearing masks, gloves, depending on the cases, eye protection. Of course, I've always got eye protection on. So, but they have safety glasses. So if we're going in on a COVID patient, if you will, safety glasses, N95 mask, heavy duty gloves. And I have gowns for them, provided for them if they, would wear them. Nobody is. The cities, it depends on the situation, but they carry them on the rigs. They're available.
You have enough to get you through the end of the fiscal year. In other words, till.
Yeah, as far as that go, the PPEs for that medical response, we're very good there. The county has a huge cache of equipment that all I have to do is pick up the phone with the emergency manager and say, hey, I'm out of gloves or I'm out of N95 masks, and they have pallets of them sitting
You
at
don't
the
have to pay for those.
We don't have to pay for those. No, that was all done through a FEMA grant
Yeah,
early on.
Mark Hall.
Right.
Who's retiring?
Yeah, January 3rd.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Plavich.
Yes. Next up is fire department oxygen tank rental versus lease.
Okay. In your packet, you should have from Air Gas. That was included, wasn't it, Michelle?
Yes, that was.
Okay. Well, I got to digging. Originally, when we had our 3 ambulances before we sold them, what prompted all this in my head is that we had these big oxygen tanks that had to keep in our ambulances for the service of transporting patients. And we had them, four tanks for over the course of a year when we didn't do any transports, and we were paying $800 basically a month for those. And then I got to thinking, how much is it costing us for the little cylinders that we use on everyday basis, running to a patient, and if they're having trouble breathing, we put them on oxygen till the ambulance gets there, and then they switch our tank out with theirs and they go on the ambulance. So if you'll, and I didn't print that one, I can bring it up, but or maybe I got, oh, I do. I got to thinking about that, and I'm thinking, why is it costing us so much for 11 rental tank cylinders? And I got down to Airgas, talking with Brian down there. It's costing us $7.11 daily for 11 air tanks, which we can adequately do what we need to do with 10 air tanks. Okay, so times 30 days, that was 218. 18 times 12 for the month, for the year, was $2,558. In over 5 years, that's basically costing us $12,790.08. And I said, is there a way we can save some money? And he goes, well, why don't you lease them? And I said, well, what's the lease cost? A 1-year option for 10 tanks is $550. And a 5-year option is $1,650. And of course, we pay a fill charge no matter whether we rent it or we lease it. And it's typically, it's market driven. It's around $23.18 a tank if we have to have it refilled. So basically, if we go to a 5-year lease, we will over 5 years save $11,140.90. So it's my recommendation that the board accept us getting a rental or lease agreement with Airgas instead of renting them. We'll cease and desist that immediately and try to save some money there for the next 5 years. And it'll be easier for budgeting purposes. I know that I can put in a line item, oxygen tank rental, $1,650 for 5 years. We can project that out for the next 20 if we have to. Mr. Lapp.
So it's one of those, kind of seems like a no-brainer kind of thing, but do we have to do anything to the tanks on an annual basis? Do we have to clean the valves? Do we have to tumble them? We don't have to do
No.
anything.
We have an empty tank. We take it over to Airgas. We set it on their porch there. They bring out a tank, we grab it, and away we
So
go.
it'd be really no different than if I needed a new propane tank.
That's
for
exactly
my-
correct. Welding, acetylene tanks, whatever.
Can we make a 5-year agreement at the board level and commit to that? Or Tim, do we have, or can we even make it beyond a budget year? I notice in just sitting around with the county board that a lot of the contracts will have language that we put in there or have put in there that say, this is subject to appropriation. Because if the money's not appropriated in the annual budget, then the deal is done. And that language has to be in those longer term contracts. There's also a second question though, in that we're here for a 4-year term, which is only about 3 years away now.
3 years.
Yeah, so can we go beyond our term of office to commit a future board?
We do that with,
Well, we do that with installment agreements.
with installment agreements, that's for sure. With
But
the
we're not supposed to
vendor,
have installment
with the
agreements.
vendor recognize that
We inherited. a bunch
what
of
Russ is talking about as far as a 5-year contract, but
Subject to appropriation. on the-
Yeah, I'm not sure what their cancellation policy.
My question is, if we went, let's say with the 5-year lease, would we pay the $1,650 right now up front,
Right,
and then we wouldn't have a payment for 4 years?
for 5 years, yeah.
So we would pay it all now.
And if we chose to do the yearly program, and that was 5, it would be over a course of 5 years, that would end up costing you $2,750 versus $1,650. So I'm just trying to look a 5-year projection, how we can save.
Can we lease a copy machine now?
Yes, and that lease is coming up in April,
What would be the difference?
and it was a 5-year lease.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other examples. You just gave us one.
Yeah.
Our postage
And
machine.
it also.
Our postage machine was a 5-year lease too.
Yeah,
So I guess the gamble there is that if we did a 5-year lease, right, for $1,650, let's say, God forbid that, well, we're no longer here. I mean, everybody could be gone, right? In all reality, we're still only at 1,650 versus what we would be paying on our current rental agreement. And we're going to be able to project that down the road 5 years. And even if we did the yearly plan, it's still $1,000 more over 5 years, basically. So we're going to just bury the cost. It would end up costing us like $650 in all reality.
Is it 10 tanks or 11?
10.
tanks?
No,
Okay,
I
'cause you
only,
referred to 11 in the beginning. of
that's
it.
our current rental agreement,
Okay, but we only need 10.
but I'm
11.
proposing that we do 5 tanks at this
Okay.
station, 5 tanks at that station. And that'll be adequate because we carry, 2 on each rig plus a spare. And
So we would prepay for 5 years at the upfront?
that's correct.
So it's
1,650.
not X amount of dollars per year for a 5-year lease.
Right, that would be a one-time cut, and I mean, we could do that, if we wanted to, we could defer this till April 1st, so we hit a new budget year, but we're at the present time wasting money on our tanks.
Yeah, after 3 years, we break even.
Yes,
Mark, do you know what GL you would pay this out of? Because there's not enough money in medical operational supplies.
right, well, that is where it would have to come out of that GL.
So we'd have to, part of the motion would be to do a budget adjustment.
Right, and, I understand this thing is as tight as squeaking this budget right now for me. There's no lee room for nothing.
Is there any anticipated costs beyond that in that line item?
Well, I mean, you always have, if we go on a cardiac arrest and I'll say, for example, we had a pediatric cardiac arrest. We don't carry spare pads for pediatric. So soon as I knew that happened, I ordered another one immediately. And it was here the next day.
For the AED.
Right. But it's not very often that you have a pediatric. So we don't keep spares on the shelf, but I'm sure one other department in this county may loan me a pad if I needed to do that. But those type of things would be, we should have enough gloves. We should have enough PPEs. That's all comes out of that medical operational supplies. We recently, the board approved a big equipment order from EMS because it hadn't been done for about 6 months. So we got our stock back up. Now we're at the onesie twosies if we need to replace something instead of the case of this or the case of that. So there'll be minimal expenses, but there's going to be ongoing expenses. That's just the business we're in, unfortunately.
There is on this air gas quote, they are both for 11 units.
Yeah, because it'll come down a little bit, but originally that's what we had is 11. I told them to give me a quote like that because that's what we're currently renting, but it'll come down a little bit more because I'm going to ask this for 10 tanks. So we're going to return one back to them and then we'll be flush with 10.
Couldn't we maybe just bring this in with our budget year and bring this in as an item that you would like to see in your budget?
We certainly could do that, but at the present time, we're still paying more.
Right,
In the next 3 months, and we would pay for a
Right.
year.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
So that was my concern. I'm just trying to find every penny I can right now. And that was one of the pennies that I figured would kind of be a no-brainer to everybody once they've seen the totals, but
Tell me that again. Our cost for a month is over $500.
yeah, let me pull it up here.
Do you have a GL?
According
For medical supplies,
according to this, it looks like we've got
medical operational supplies, it's
30 days is
205,
$200 and some dollars a month.
326, 729.
about
So-
$218 a month.
It's only
Two-
1,500.
It's 218.18 a month for the current 11 tanks that we have. So we would drop that by 1 tank. So we'll be down $7.11 minus that. So you'd be basically 211,
Yeah.
211.
It's $600.
Yeah.
600 and some bucks.
All right, so
3 months.
So I think it would, it's really close to paying for itself. But I mean, whatever the pleasure of this board is, I'm just trying to just save us as much as I can right now. So my recommendation is that we,
I'll make a motion that we enter into an agreement with Airgas for cylinder rental in the amount up to $1,650 for 5 years.
It would actually be 1,500.
Okay, for up to, or in the amount of 1,500 for 5 years. Out of line item 205-336-729-000, and there is enough in
Then
there.
there would be enough in there,
Okay.
in that line item.
now do keep in mind that if we have to have a refill, that's 2318. Right now, it's based on current market value. So it's like a drug of anything else. The price varies on
So
oxygen.
you'll still have to probably at the next board meeting have a budget adjustment.
Right.
So that we can.
More than
continue
likely.
to-
That'll be some of them meetings that I'll be going, oh, help.
Yeah, yeah.
How long does the tank last?
Steve supported.
So
Motion
if
by
you're,
Treasurer Laura Summers, supported by trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Okay, further discussion?
yeah,
I
yeah.
was just curious to see how
So,
long the tank.
Let's say we go to a difficulty breathing patient. We'll put them on a non-rebreather mask at 15 liters. You get about 20 minutes on a tank.
Oh,
So then we typically have ALS within that, site. And once it hits the 500 mark on the PSI, it automatically goes out of service because you don't want to be hooking up a half empty tank or more than half empty tank on a difficulty breathing patient, then have to run back out to the rig and get another tank because your tank's empty.
okay.
So my policy with these guys, once it hits 500 PSI, done, put a new one on. So.
Any further
That's it.
discussion? Sure.
Yes.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
No.
trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Plavin,
Yes.
treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
That's all for me. I'd like to thank the board for the time. Oh, do we have,
Oh, I
oh,
guess
you want to talk about the,
we have the next item is International Association Firefighter Local 1859 tentative agreement. You want to take that one, Ken?
I actually don't have it in front of me.
Thank you, Treasurer.
I'll stand at the podium just, but that's kind of run by you folks there. I just,
No, didn't we usually do that under a closed session or?
This is a contract with employees.
No, because we have to vote on it.
We have to
Depending on what
vote on it.
stage you were at, if you had ongoing
Negotiation.
deliberations to make in closed
Okay.
session, but if you were ready to. vote
So
on the
we're okay
contract,
with this.
Then it was open, yeah.
I
Okay,
can help you, Cash.
all right. So basically, there were some language changes for the most part.
To bring it to current with current law,
Correct.
labor law is Article 3, union shop.
Yeah, and then we offered to the employees that they could use their PTO immediately upon hire.
No, 90 days.
Or 90 days, I'm sorry. What was it before that?
It was a whole year
A
they had to
year.
go. They couldn't be
Um,
sick, use it for sick time or anything.
And I'm just hitting some of the highlights. If you guys have questions, I guess, let me know, but we're also working on the physical fitness, personal care section of that. We're gonna come back to try and find something that could be a cost savings down the road. The union is offered to, we'll come back and come up with some other language, whatever that process is. We're just not quite there yet. So.
trustee Kroll, you mind if I just interject
Yeah,
right there?
go
for
ahead
you?
with that.
So the Combat Readiness Training Center and the city of Alpena currently have a contract with a company called BioCare. They come in and they bring a mobile unit right to their facility, of which I would like to see us try to get in on that service when they show up to do physical fitness testing, physicals, I should say. And it depends on your numbers, but it could be between $500 and $700 per employee versus 4,500
$4,500
Yeah.
of what we're paying currently.
Yeah.
So The union in these negotiations has agreed to look at what we have to offer up when it comes to that. So I think that was a big positive there to the tune of $4,500 a year versus $500 to $700, which would be great. This mobile unit comes in, they do baseline blood testing, they do a 12-lead EKG, they do, I'm missing a couple things here. Respiratory fit testing. Everything is done in one stop. It's all documented, all sent to our personnel person for record, which would, just like you get now, that would be forwarded to the clerk. And obviously I would have access to that if I needed to see something, but I think that's a pretty good gig that we're looking at trying to pull off there.
Correct. So number 5, there's a couple items there, so we're gonna changing that. There's gonna be a $350 stipend for employees hired after January 1st. And that's gonna allow us to keep our letter of understanding until we get our staffing at the appropriate level.
But this, isn't this going away?
That, yes, that will go away
December 31st.
December 31st of 2022.
So will the section 2 contract adjustments for staffing needs, that will expire
Correct.
December 31st. of
Everything will
2022.
Where does it
sunset.
say that?
But the
on
stipend
the
goes
first
away
page.
in June.
I think they refer to it as a sunset
Oh.
clause in there.
So that it
Oh,
does
on
not
on
renew
Article
the contract.
22.
Right.
Then we have item 6. Basically, we're gonna do a agreement into for the next year, so December 31st of 2022. That will allow us to see if we put a millage out there and it passes, or if it doesn't, we'll be able to know prior to that if we're going into a negotiation or what the circumstances are at that point. So we only did a 1 year. And then we had something, we changed the outside employment. We just added another line on there at the end, just stating that employees that are currently working may not engage in work pursuant to outside employment while on duty.
That makes sense.
So, and then for wages, we did a 3% effective January 1st. And then an additional 3% April 1st. These guys have gone, what was it,
Year and a half.
year and a half without wages, wage increases. So we thought that was appropriate. And there were just some language issues that we also are gonna clean up, just minor things.
So is this the final?
These are just the sections that are changing.
The rest of the contract stays as is. These
Yeah.
are the only sections that changes.
Right.
Right.
And as part of the personnel committee, I would recommend agreeing to this.
I don't like the language at the end of Article 1 or Article 3 it is in paragraph 1. The US Supreme Court, I don't even know what this decision is about, frankly, but it obviously was contrary to firefighters' prior contract. US Supreme Court decision in Janus is overturned or modified. The union reserves the right to request the right to revert to the 2019-2020 language. Maybe I misread it. If legally permissible. Initially, when I read it, it sounded like it was going to be an automatic thing that we would go back to some other language that was more beneficial to them. I don't want to give up our right to bargain on a point if there's a law change. If there's a basis to
So,
bargain.
Doesn't
So,
that just give them the right to request it?
yeah,
Right.
I guess that's what it is.
according to our labor attorney, if I may, in our meeting that we had, she said this is standard language across the nation. Basically, they just have it in there as a,
More of a feel good thing.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's the way I took it from her. I'm not sure if the rest of the committee took it that's the way, but that's the way I understood it from her.
As long as we have the right to respond to a request.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with, wasn't there with dues and that stuff?
Or dues for for people that don't join the union.
Well, like how it's, there was a change in that, which was part of Janice. So
Yeah.
it's, even if it reverts back to the old
Couldn't make them
language.
pay.
Correct. So- Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
She was just starting to see how long it would take to
Oh, I
bring it
don't
over.
really do have an extra coffee.
I'm
So
like, what are you doing?
do we need a motion?
Yes, somebody would need to make a motion and we support.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the tentative agreement between the Alpena Charter Township and the IAFF Local 1859 as of December 23rd, 2021, as presented.
I will support that. Any further discussion?
My problem with supporting it is the 6% increase in the next 4 months when we can't float a millage that will be available to us until, if it passed, until I think April of 23. When is our next bargaining? When is this contract basically is only till the end of this year?
Correct.
Till end of 2022.
Correct.
Right, so even that, we're bargaining with them again. With,
With either the knowledge of millage.
we'll at
pass
least
or
know, well, we at least would know that if we had a village pass.
Previous agreement was for 1 year as well.
I'm okay with it being
But
1
it's
year.
been extended.
Right, numerous times.
I'm okay with it being for a 1 year period of time. I'm just questioning whether we want to give a 6%, can give a 6% raise in this year while we're doing it out of the general fund.
Well, and I don't know if you remember, but when we did that contract with the city, there was, there would be additional money in the budget, but it was spent on that contract. So I think we'll see that come back in this next budget. And I think it was a substantial amount of money there. So,
62,500.
correct. So,
That what?
That
That we-
was
we
used
didn't
to
spend,
man
you mean?
this-
We
that we
didn't
paid
spend.
the
From our
city.
general fund,
Oh, no, we spent it.
Yeah.
That was spent, yeah.
but it
But
would,
that would be able to go to wages on our next budget year.
but it would still come out of the general fund,
Will be probably that too.
part of the.
yeah.
200,000.
Yeah, but we're talking about a minimum of 300,000 coming out of the general fund before we ever can get to a millage. Minimum 300,000, probably more. I mean, we keep hiring full-time people, which we should, perhaps.
But our overtime should go down once we get these two new hires on board.
That's the part that's killing us right now is the
Overtime has always killed us.
Overtime is what?
It's always killed us. That's what been a big hardship.
Still is. I thought it was the transfer.
Well, that
Oh, that was
too.
over.
Well, the transfers are a moot point anymore.
No, I say we take a vote.
Not according to social media.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Reiner,
No.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes,
clerk Palovich.
Yes.
Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes,
trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Motion passed. Second opportunity for public comment.
Thank you, board.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
No online. No public comment. Any discussion?
I would like to make a comment. I just really feel that anything that is brought to our board on this agenda needs to have a memo with it explaining what it is, what jail number it's coming out of, what the recommendation is of the department head, and I think it would really help these meetings kind of move along and not be rehashing, So I would just like to request memos to go with attachments.
I would agree with that.
great. In fact, if it could be,
Well, we could mandate it.
Well, I think we should.
If
I
it
mean,
doesn't- If you don't have a memo with it, it's not gonna be. put on the
but just the
agenda.
thing from assessing, if there would have been a little memo,
Full
just,
explanation.
you know, saying what it is. I mean, your things, you know, you recommend Phoenix, you know what I mean? And for
well,
four
especially if
people
the
and-
person isn't gonna be here. because
No,
of-
no, I know. I'm just saying. I mean, I think it just helps across the board.
But it's gonna hold true for you guys that are here, you know, full-time too. I mean,
I
You
do
know.
provide a memo.
I'd
Yeah.
say the
I-
treasurer's probably the best about always putting a memo with. her
yeah,
stuff.
she always has the GL number.
I'm probably a 50.
Well, so does she.
she.
But
Yeah, she tried to do GL.
that was all my
Any further discussion?
I mean-
Motion to adjourn.
You would like. Lawrence made a motion to adjourn.
Or